am the staff director for the House Committee on Homeland Security. It is one of the standing committees in the United States Congress. The committee has primary oversight over the Department of Homeland Security and national security as a whole. Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi actually chairs the committee.
So one of the things that, and we're talking about elections and election interference. I know we have an election coming up in Georgia. It's pretty much going to decide the fate of the Senate. Now, we aren't the only ones in America that are concerned with our elections. There are other folks outside of our country that are also trying to figure out what's happening with our elections. And sometimes they're not just sitting back on the sideline watching.
Right. Thank you so much, Mert. This election in Georgia is very, very important. It will decide the balance of power in the United States Senate. The House of Representatives will be controlled by a Democratic majority. We will have Vice President-elect Biden is a Democrat, and he has been duly elected President of the United States. And the outcome of the Georgia Senate races will determine if the Republicans retain the majority and if the Democrats take the majority. This will decide a lot of things for the American people, not just Georgians, but for the American people as a whole. It will decide whether or not stimulus packages get passed. As you've seen, the House of Representatives passed the HEROES Act months ago, and Mitch McConnell has stalled on it, and there are millions of Americans standing in line for food because they have not been able to get any stimulus packages. Businesses are suffering. That is due to the Republican majority in the Senate. Having a Republican majority in the Senate could endanger could endanger the economy of Main Street, depending on if we have a Republican majority in the Senate. President-elect Biden, his nominees could be held up. As you see now, we still have the Republicans in the majority in the Senate right now, and instead of acting on coronavirus stimulus or stimulus packages for the economy that is suffering right now, they're just going ahead pushing through Trump nominees. So it is very, very important that the Senate is decided, and that is decided on January 5th, so the Democrats and the House can know how to negotiate, and so the president-elect can know who he needs to reach out to. Is it going to be Mitch McConnell? Is it going to be Senator Schumer? And how will the Republican Senate work towards getting relief and getting help to the people that they serve, and the same as the Democrats. So this election in Georgia is not just for Georgians, but it's for the nation as a whole. Now, as you mentioned, there are people that are outside of our nation looking at our elections. Who is in office matters. Because of our democracy and because of the United States posture in the world throughout the years, and it has changed drastically within the last 4 years, who is in the White House matters to the public, and how we govern matters to people across the globe. And no, sometimes they aren't sitting on the sidelines. As you noticed, as you may have referenced, and as we know now, in 2016, there was interference in our elections because Russia interfered in our elections to sway the election toward Donald Trump. That's not anything that I am hypothesizing. That is what the intelligence community said. That came out in an intelligence community report. That is what all intelligence community leaders in the Trump administration, not even in the Obama administration, but the Trump and Obama administration, said there was Russia interfered in our 2016 elections to sway the election toward Donald Trump. That's even there are public portions of that report available. Since then, there have been misinformation campaigns and disinformation campaigns targeting Black people, especially targeting Hispanics, targeting Latinos. And just with this last election, you had a campaign that was trying to discredit President-elect Biden. And the Trump administration tried to suppress that intelligence report, tried to make sure that it didn't even come out, tried to water it down. China, Russia, and Iran were all determined by the intelligence community to be interfering in our elections. Unfortunately, Mert, I can tell you about these countries. I can tell you what's in the public domain, but what really and truly is disheartening, yet predictable, is that the number one threat to our democracy right now is Donald Trump. Donald Trump, from the White House, is going on his own misinformation campaign. He's saying that he won the election. And Republican Senate, Republican Congress, some people in general are falling behind this. They're not falling in line, and they're threatening our democracy by not stating that President-elect Biden is the president-elect and Vice President-elect Harris, that they were duly elected by the Electoral College. By doing that and going on that misinformation campaign, that really is threatening our democracy. And it's also threatening Georgia. If Stop the Steal, people saying that, well, if quote unquote, they keep messing with the elections, then what's the point in voting? So to be honest with you, right now, one of the major threats to our election resides at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
It's just amazing to me that these other countries are so concerned with what's happening in the U.S. that they're going after, just regular people, and trying to change their minds about elections.
True. Other countries, they have interest in who's at the top. And as you've seen from the past almost 4 years, it changes the posture of this country when the leadership can change the posture of the country dramatically. There have been misinformation campaigns, disinformation campaigns that, say that the NAACP is endorsing someone, or that Black Lives Matter is a certain type of organization. And it is targeted on Facebook, Twitter, sometimes Instagram, sometimes other platforms too. And it's going to have to take some work with the technology companies. Technology companies tried to step it up this year by cutting off ads at a certain time. IG is not stating location information in real time at certain times. Twitter is marking things. But if you look at the model of just saying something, shouting something out, starting up a Facebook group and saying things from the rooftops and trying to drill it into people's minds, that's the same playbook that Donald Trump is using right now by saying that he won the election. There was a Medal of Freedom ceremony and the other day, and he still had to stop and say during a Medal of Freedom ceremony that he won the election. There are Facebook groups stating that Donald Trump won the election. Facebook groups saying that, quote unquote, they are trying to take the election from us, and that there's fraud and things of that nature. And it's actually endangering the men and women that have gone out in this pandemic and been poll workers, people that have been poll observers for years, people that have participated in the democracy. And it could turn out to be a turnoff in the future. So this type of misinformation is very, very dangerous. The intelligence community sometimes has the tools to stop it or to disrupt it or to get information that is coming when it comes from another country. But when you have the leader of the United States using every platform he has, that's way problematic, because you don't have an analyst that can say, hold off. And then when you do have someone such as former Director Chris Krebs, the director of the Cyber Infrastructure Security Agency, that said, no, the elections were safe and secure. We did what we had to do to make sure that in the end, it was called in the direction that the Electoral College process was fair. Then he gets fired. Then you have Donald Trump's attorneys call for him to be shot. So you see how this really interrupts almost our whole entire flow of things. It interrupts public servants. It interrupts volunteers. It puts people at risk. And then at the end of the day, it's threatening our democracy.
So I know, as far as with what's happening right now, as far as with people in our country, that I don't know what can be done about that right now. But as far as like in the future, if you're able to say, are there plans in the works? Are there discussions being had on what to do in order to make sure that these future elections, starting, with the one in January, the future elections are as safe as they can be? What can be done to stop these misinformation campaigns? And I guess for the people that don't believe, how can you make them believe that the process is fair and that, nothing illegal is happening?
Well, as far as legislation was passed in this Congress. There will be more legislative efforts next Congress. The Senate and House have looked into disinformation campaigns, election security. There's been several task forces on election security. There was an entire subcommittee dedicated to elections in this Congress. A lot of that was looking at voter suppression, and that really was very successful. It was led by Congresswoman Marsha Fudge, and she did an entire series of field hearings and especially places where voter suppression was on the rise, such as the Dakotas, such as Georgia, and that has been very successful. And it also seems as if members of Congress, Senate and House have had hearings with the tech companies. The tech companies are going to have to do a little more, they were set up with certain things in mind. They were developed, you didn't see this far down the road how a social media company could be such a huge harbor of disinformation. I know when we first started on Facebook, we were just trying to share pictures and let everybody know, what we were doing and having fun. But saying that to say, there has to be more work done in the next Congress with tech companies and Congress and educating the public. But when it comes down to making people believe, I think that it is, and that's what we can do. And the IC, the intelligence community has a budget. The intelligence community, led under President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris, will likely believe in the information that's coming in and be led in such a way that analysts will be on top of this. Election security will be at top of mind. I know if the Secretary Designate Alejandro Mayorkas is actually confirmed by the Senate, he will put in place a assistant director that will take election security very seriously. Director Krebs did too, though. But saying that to say, you'll have leadership that takes things coming from across the water and out, international threats to our elections systems very seriously. I'm sure whoever the Attorney General is will make sure that voting rights are not suppressed. But the thing about it is, when it comes to domestic, when it comes to having Donald Trump at the top saying the election was fraud, having members of Congress or people that are in your communities, people in the State House, echoing that to the people that have voted for them and that have believed in them, it's going to have to tamp down, or it's going to be a threat to our democracy. And I don't see how you can legislate. Well, the president cannot say that there was fraud. We just, we never thought that there would be a person in office that would do this until Donald Trump became in office and ran for president, became in office and started showing his colors. Well, reminding of his colors, because we knew what some of his colors were in the beginning. But the thing about it is someone's going to have to step up and say, I'm a leader and I believe in the Constitution and I believe in the democracy.